Oh, look at that badge, Grisha.
Hey, are you going to introduce yourself?
Nice looking badge.
So yeah, hi guys.
Hi. Welcome to Open Mic.
Yeah, I pretty much help Russian soldiers get the equipment they need, help civilians and stuff like that. And I do it for foreign audience, so that's why I always speak English. And I was invited at some point to this open mic, and it's 2 a.m. in Russia, so not too late to join.
So, so does anyone recognize Grisha, like in the live chat?
I know about Grisha. Yeah, a lot of.
Yeah,
I heard about it.
Grisha is the most famous scene is. I remember. Then everything else is Russian, so I don't know how to say it.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. There's some noise coming from somewhere. Is that from Vaughn?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Something's going on here.
What's up, Wayne?
I don't know. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, we hear you good.
Good. Okay, I wasn't sure. What happened, by the way, guys? I'm totally out of the loop. I've been busy all day.
Well, luckily, Telegram is. This is not a Telegram. I had issues for 2 hours, right? It was shut down in Russia. So it seems like there's a really comprehensive IT attack on Russian stores, Russian servers. Something's going on. I had in Croatia.
Was right about Jews.
No, he wasn't. So, like, that's nonsense talk. Like, they're two separate events, but
there was.
We don't need that stuff.
There was issues in Croatia too with stores.
Hey, Grisha, thanks for coming on.
There is issue with also payment system here. A slight issue, not a big one, but I think it's some kind of virus or something that's going on that was sent to make problems for Russian market, for Russian economy. Because I read that there was in some stores in Russia there was issue with accepting discounts, the deals, the membership, and so on in the stores when you go. So with the pricing and so that's big comprehensive attack on Russia.
Well,
is that?
Telegram blackouts do happen pretty often. I encountered it myself a couple of hours prior, but it's honestly something usual. And since there are so many people nowadays using Telegram, I could imagine there could be some problems sustaining the amount of people. I mean, just remember when Prigozhin was announcing his March of Justice. It's in a way bizarre that we are able to watch historical events happen live on social media right in front of our eyes. And imagine the amount of people watching his channel at that moment. I mean, it's just something interesting about the modern world and how crazy is the digital era. I mean,
well, that's the thing, right? Like, even today with this attack today, I was watching the mainstream media, and you see how they're shifting, right? Like, as soon as it was first reported, it was like, oh, great, the hostages are free. The IDF heroically saved them. And then as stuff started coming out on social media and all the videos started coming out and more information was being made available to the masses and people started getting more and more outraged, you see them updating their stories as it's going along, right? So because even they can't justify this. And that's the problem that the mainstream media has these days, is they can't control the narrative. Because as you said, it's everywhere on social media. Everybody's got a phone. Everybody's a reporter now. You can't compete with that, So,
I mean, well, Elon Musk kind of offered the platform to everyone, but there are plenty of people complaining regarding the Israel-Palestine thing, and I'd say it's very interesting to see how modern wars are being broadcasted pretty much live on social media. I'd say the Russian-Ukrainian war is the biggest example of it happening, and now Israel-Palestine. And
How will Russia respond to escalation in Ukraine?
They've got nothing to escalate against with.
I wouldn't say there is anything to really escalate in Ukraine. It's as it was a special military operation, it will continue being. I don't see war being declared, and even though probably a year ago I would have said 99% Russia needs a mobilization to win or to reach Kiev and our other destinations like Odessa, but now this was really replaced with just getting as many contract soldiers as possible. And as an everyday civilian in Russia, I feel it because I hear broadcasts of contract service in the public transport and metro, which honestly, I'd rather hear advertisement of contract service than getting a new mobilization wave. So, yeah, I'd say we're currently winning both the informational war and the war on the ground, because if Ukraine needs some kind of foreign intervention with Macron trying to act tough, well, that's not a good sign for them.
Has there been any more info on that strike with the Kinzel, where they said there was French and other trainers?
In Kharkov?
Grisha, please provide an unbiased answer. What Russians think about mill effort in Ucker? Do they think Putin doesn't do enough or is not aggressive enough?
I mean, there are obviously two camps. I'll be extremely honest. There are some people that want to see Ukraine as being flattened just like Gaza is, because whatever, I don't know, they're hawks, they're just different people. Some want complete death and destruction because they either don't understand the consequences of it, and there are other people which are, satisfied with how the things are going, since it is special military operation and not a war. And literally, Israel-Palestine war is the example of what is a real war. What is the difference between civilian casualties and an intention of genociding another nation? So, the numbers speak for themselves. It's around 15,000 casualties.
Russia
civilian.
will threaten. That's it, all talk.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
Well, it's not just that. It happens. There's always increased action, increased. I would say we see that Russia has a good intelligence on the ground in a Western Ukraine, in Kiev. What's where's the new supplies? Where's what needs to be hit? And they don't hit it. They know where the bunkers are. That's what I'm thinking, because they escalate and hit bunkers and command centers, depending on the level of the retaliation. But it's very good. I
Why
experienced
is
it
there
here.
a jellyfish on open mic?
I had he's talking about me or no or Wayne. We look alike, gummy faces. The issue with bombing civilians, the people get enraged
I've heard some
because of
interesting questions, but that one kind of.
what's happening with shelling civilians. Like in Belgorod, because that's the level of retaliation.
Yeah.
Or trying to get Russia to really escalate heavily, which is, acting out of emotion is not really that positive, right? In case where the death and lives are in question. So, they're really responsible commanders. You really have a responsible military and so on. And I would also guess that there's some issue with a success of electronic warfare, because when Ukrainians send them rockets and guided precision attacks on some military targets within the civilian areas, right? If the electronic warfare works, they will dislodge for a few hundred meters. They will change the target uh, area, right, of the ATACMs, of the other guided munition, so it will hit civilians. Yeah, that's I'm guessing. I'm just guessing if that's going on also. Collateral
I just,
damage. Yeah, go
I,
ahead, Juan.
I just think the Russians have been really measured. I mean, there might be stuff they've done that no one knows about because it's, maybe America doesn't want you to know that they fucked up something that's embarrassing. But I mean, the thing like Doug always says, there's a butcher bill getting put together, and at some point that bill's going to be paid, and you don't really know what the Russians are going to do in retaliation for all these things. And it's like, you can see how they're trying to push and push and push and push and just get Russia to do something stupid, and then it must just make them insane that it's always measured, or they appear to do nothing. And I don't really think they're not doing anything. I just think they're either doing things you don't see, or they're, writing a list down and working through that list. And, they'll start shooting drones down or whatever, but they're not going to take the bait and go like overreact, I don't think, ever.
I got two questions for Grisha, if you don't mind. It's interesting to have somebody that actually works on the front line and and volunteers.
He don't work on the front line.
Like
he
does
works in the rear, but he's
okay in the rear.
He's making a real difference.
Yeah, he's kind of more in touch in the ground than we are. So I'm curious, like now that the situation is more shifted, that Russia is like pushing forward and the Ukrainians are kind of slowly getting pushed back. Do the frontline troops have like this, like a kind of a SOP, like standard operating procedure to kind of help the Ukrainians to surrender, or is it on a unit by unit basis? Like, is there like a standard where they go in and they say, okay, you guys all surrender, or this is how you surrender, these are the channels you can use, and then if you're not, they will bomb the hell out of you, or is there a standard like that? And my second question is, what happens to all the Russians that even if they get hurt, either they lose a limb or they can't fight anymore? Like what is the kind of like the overall like state support for them after they get hurt?
Benefits and care package.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, just so Grisha.
Yeah, regarding the first question, I mean, a very famous radio wave, 149.200. It's called Volga. There was, and there will be plenty of advertisement of that. Probably majority of these kind of advertisement videos or propaganda videos are all urging the Ukrainian soldiers to surrender. It's almost 99% about them calling Volga universal radio wave. I mean, that's really the main thing about surrendering, though. There is, this is something sensitive to tell, but not a lot of soldiers like taking in people, because you take someone in and then they get exchanged, and you don't know for what. You don't know if they got exchanged for, I mean, if it's like one-to-one trade, then sure, always a fair and a good trade. But when there is like, when Medvedchuk was, for example, exchanged for 200 Azov soldiers, I am in a very big doubt that those guys that captured those Azov soldiers were happy with the trade. I I mean, it's all government stuff, but yeah, soldiers are. It's a tough.
Will Ukraine be without electricity by the winter?
Ask Mr. Surovikin. Next, Mr. Surovikin.
Is Surovikin
Actually in fairly decent shape. I've been tracking some stuff that's been going on in the background. I don't know if you guys have been hearing about.
We don't hear you, Wayne.
The
guys,
electric
there's
is fine.
Sorry if I sound a little bit disjointed. I had to put my hearing aids back in, so I'm listening to you on the phone and talking through the computer. What's happening is that they're doing a upgrade on the interconnections between Poland, Romania, and damn it, what's the other country?
No, it's okay. You can ask your question first. Wait, what's your question?
There's
Okay,
one other
then
country I can't remember, but they're working on getting power in from outside.
Well,
I want
considering
to ask Grisha. Wait. I want to ask Grisha. Grisha, what do you think? Is Surovikin back in the front lines in Ukraine, Russia, or he's somewhere in Africa, or where do you think he is? A lot of
He's no longer in Africa. There's another guy who handles it. It's Yevkurov. He is the one who travels to the Sahel countries all the time and Libya too. And with the African Corps existing on par with Wagner, there are plenty of people who think that African Corps completely replaced Wagner in Africa. It's not true. They just take... it's like the Africa is split between African Corps and Wagner. I mean, Central African Republic has always been huge friends of Wagner, and they remain. Wagner is in Mali, and the African Corps are more like in Sahel regions, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, stuff like that. And Surovikin was actually in Morocco, Algiers, but he's back in Russia. No idea what he's up to, but he's a very capable general, and I hope he will be back.
Hey,
Is
nice.
Wagner now under
Russia.
Russian government control? Is Wagner now? What's the status? Because previously Wagner is a bit uncontrollable, right? What's the situation right now?
Noise.
To be completely honest, Wagner was always pretty much under the government because majority of the financing was from the government. How would you pay for all of that stuff otherwise? But nowadays, obviously, it's not the same Wagner that, for example, I was a little bit part of with my PMC Wagner Center stuff. It's not as autonomous. You can do much less stuff, but they're mostly Belarus training the Belarusian army and Africa. Regarding integration into Rosgvardia, those talks kind of ceased. There is nothing that came out. So for now, I think they'll just keep handling Africa.
I got one more question.
Belarus.
I got one more question before I hand to Vaughn. The tech center, right? Because I remember during those days, in the earlier days in the Ukraine war, Wagner opened this tech center and invite everybody to come to go there to do innovation, do the startups, and to help to find solution for Russia. Is it still ongoing now, or it's like?
You're talking about the Wagner Center.
Yeah, and all the programs, they have this program like trying to help people to provide some resource to build technologies or something for Russia.
The thing is, if we're talking about something that's visible to the public, it was PMC Wagner Center, which is now closed. It wasn't a building of Prigozhin. He was actually just renting it. So now it's just a place where you can rent yourself an office. Regarding everything else, I mean, obviously, there is still a way as a civilian to offer something to them. And I remember people that, for example, were like graduates of universities. They came in with solutions for using AI. in FPV drones to control them as a swarm, and that's something, for example, was what was practiced in PMC Wagner Center, and I am 100% sure they're doing it somewhere else, but just from other, you just don't see it. Wagner works in the shadows. That's where they work best, and that's
so which means most of it is gone. Most
you
of
will
the
not see it. I think it works. You just not gonna hear it. You are not gonna see it.
Yeah. I just want to say, you know, it's all fun and everybody thinks he's dead, but tell him I said hi.
Wayne, tell us about stealthy aircraft carriers.
I mean, regarding Prigozhin, there obviously there is an opinion, I'll say, among people who were in relation to the company that he is alive, but I'm not the one to know.
It's one of them cool stories. It's a cool legend. If he never comes back, no one ever knows. If he comes back in 5 years, everybody's going to shit their pants and be like, "Oh my god!" You know.
That's true. That's very true.
I think about it. He's like DB Cooper. Kind of like Bigfoot. If they see him, but did they see him?
Though Prigozhin is not an ordinary man, and you can expect anything from him. Maybe because Shoigu was stripped from the position of the Minister of Defense, and that was one of Prigozhin's conditions when March of Justice happened. So you can, and the thing is, the current Minister of Defense of Russia, Belousov, was actually friends with Prigozhin, and he was one of the people that carried the relationship between the Ministry of Defense and Wagner. So I feel like he set in motion things, and it just took time for them to happen. And it's good, honestly. Reforming stuff, if it's failing, is the right thing to do. That's how you learn. Special military operation has been, or war. You can reference it however you want. This is the government's viewpoint.
Do the guys on the ground like this change of the defense minister?
100%. Everyone who I know, and honestly, I mostly work with artillerymen from Belgorod region. They are scattered along the northern border of Ukraine, where not much happens except for Kharkov right now, and one group in Ugledar. And both of them responded like the guys in Ugledar were celebrating. The guys in Belgorod were a little bit less, but also happy because it exposed a lot of flaws, and I mean, you gotta fix them. It doesn't matter how big, how good of a friend you are. If you are failing at your job, you need meritocracy if you want to win things. And I think that's what's being established in the Russian military, and that's something the Western powers should fear, that finally we're getting people who do stuff instead of just maybe pretending, maybe a little bit of stealing.
Hey, Grisha, can I ask you a question? What's it like?
I have fingers up. Sorry. I heard that
Grisha,
there's
can I step in here for a second? There's something I think is kind of
I had the fingers up. Wait,
important.
just
Sorry,
a
man, I
second.
couldn't see it.
I noticed that there's some Wagner members actually joined the volunteer units from DPR, LPR, so they're helping them there with the planning, with some commanding, with ideas how to proceed and so on. Is that correct? I mean,
yeah, they also joined partially to the Chechen forces, to one of their volunteer brigades. It's only natural. Wagner, it was close to perfection structure because of how it worked in comparison to Ministry of Defense, probably because of how small it was, probably because of how much people actually knew each other. And I mean, it's obvious it's just once you fought once, you will people almost 100% want to go and come back, and it's just this kind of a desire to do it. Some might want to go for pay and go to Africa, for example. Some go for the ideological way and join other units as part of special military operation. So nothing surprising there, and it does happen, because if your job for 1.5 years was killing, then and killing efficiently, you will continue because you don't know what to do.
And that's probably why we hear that those Donbas units, Donbas military, when they encounter soldiers from the units that were fighting them, that were shelling them, and that were having the snipers over there for 8 years before SMO, they're not really happy to take prisoners, I would say, comparing to the Russian regular military, right? That's probably, you heard about it, and I'm guessing that's what's happening.
The thing is, DPR, LPR militias have been integrated into Ministry of Defense. One of the group I'm helping in Ugledar, for example, we are part of the first Donetsk People's Republic Army Corps, and now they are under Ministry of Defense. The only thing that disrupted is the logistics chain, which I kind of helped patch up with my fundraisers, but obviously it's a very different reality for those who have been fighting for 8 years. And in a way, after those 8 years, you kind of forget that at some point you lived in the same country as those guys from the Ukrainian side. You just lose a little bit this sense of humanity if you live in constant stress, shelling, kill or death situation. I'm not gonna blame them. I have no idea how I would be reacting to the other side surrendering after they murdered your family. One of your children died in the shell bombings. Can't imagine what goes in their heads, so unable to criticize them. But obviously the hardened guys who have been through 2014, they're a different breed from those who are from the Russia's Ministry of Defense. Yeah.
Who first, Half-Caste or Nika?
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Grisha, I was going to ask you another question. What's it like when you go out just around Russia generally, and how do you find people sort of react in society in general with, not with just yourself, but just in general, the society at the moment? Are they tense? They worried? Do they talk,
How does the society react to people wearing insignia, I guess, Z insignia, and in general the military? It was strange. People were afraid maybe in the first half a year, because I have been wearing my Z armband ever since the start of special military operation, and the more time passes, the more people get used to it, and whenever they see military on the actual streets, if it's a Wagner guy, you can see he's either wearing a multicam equipment, or he has a Wagner jumbo patch. They just throw like this and say like jumbo, and they both understand each other. If it's a regular army soldier, they usually just come up and shake his hand. That's like, that's the way it should work, and that's the way it works. And I'd say the teenage part of the Russian society has gone through such a renovation, in terms of patriotic education, and this patriotic education was mostly not done through the government means, but by enthusiasts like me, or like even just Telegram bloggers who are not sponsored by anyone. And this is something the government, I think, should capitalize on, and other countries should study, how much the enthusiasts and people who lead others impact, and they impact much, much more than some well-funded government program, because people feel the lies.
Gee, you ever talked with Cap Ucker that killed soldiers?
Yeah, though they usually don't use the word killing, more like destroying targets instead, which is probably common around all world's militaries. Yeah.
Thanks.
It disrupted Grisha's. I should control the super chat. I should let him finish first. Nika is new to this channel. His first time on. Can you introduce yourself first?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah, good.
Yep.
Yeah, hello. So I'm living in Canada and I'm an Arab. I wanted to just share my thoughts and ideas I didn't see a lot of Arabs or Muslims in the show, so I wanted to add my opinion on what's happening in this world. I started to see in white, like after the war in Ukraine, after 1 or 2 months. So, hello. So I will answer any question about the people, the actual people that live in the Arabic land, because I have some idea. I lived in one of the Gulf countries for some time. Just that I wanted to present myself because I will go in a couple of minutes. So if anyone have like a question about the people, about what's happening, you are welcome. Thank you.
I would like to ask more questions to Grisha because it's an exceptional chance here that he's here, someone with so much knowledge. So
I'm just a teenager, bro.
Yeah, but you have a lot of
strange scenario.
You have a lot of contacts with the frontline soldiers, so that's kind of special insight, right? And so much. So I was wondering because you're doing the collections for the front help to the frontline. Non-military, not military. Well, okay, it doesn't matter. I'm just wondering because, like, I see how much the soldiers themselves spend on collecting, for their own needs, right, on the front line. I mean, the equipment, not personal needs, right? For equipment. And I was just wondering how much officers, like high officers, are helping in that, because it seems like it's like really large disconnect between the commanding officers that receive huge salaries and frontline units that need help and are in the front there.
It really depends on the officers themselves. There are some who will, constantly be with their soldiers, and those who, once upon a time will come in Donetsk in their full bulletproof anti-explosion vest. The thing is, for example, a salary of a Russian soldier usually is around 200k rubles. Let's say $2,200, something around that. An officer salary closer to $3,000. Usually, government obviously provides the most basic stuff: uniform, boots, bulletproof vest, your weapon, whatever. But any kind of improvements you usually get yourself, and this is the problem, because you could get boots that are not of your size, and who's gonna buy it for you? Not the government, because you missed your chance to get yourself the variant you needed, so you go and buy it by yourself, and people who will deliver it to you are usually civilian volunteers. That's how I transport equipment like Mavics to the front line. And this kind of exposed, in a way, modern warfare, that I wouldn't say there is any country on earth that is 100% prepared for war. I mean, Palestine, Israel, in the scope of everyone, there are fundraisers for the IDF soldiers being set up, and Israel is a country not the poorest country, and with one of the very good militaries established. Usually soldiers, for example, there is a company, everyone receives their salary, and each month they all give their part to something called общак. It's a Russian word. Basically, imagine a piggy bank, and everyone just throws their part, and from that they spend on their needs. For example, a unit needs to buy camouflage nets. It's not something every single individual soldier needs, but it's something you need to cover up your trenches, for example. But usually it's stuff like Mavic 3 drones, Mavic 3T drones, and those things are civilian. This is not something your government gives you, but it's something you are required on the battlefield because, well, it's your eyes in the skies. It's the best recon equipment there is. Those Mavic 3 drones is like just the bread and butter of this conflict in Ukraine, and I mean drones in general. It's just Mavics can be recon, they can drop stuff. Those are the two main things. Or if there is a unit stuck in a pocket that is bombarded all the time, from Mavic 3 drones you can drop them food, you can drop them water, and this has happened on so many occasions. It's just irreplaceable, and this is something the governments and the militaries around the world should look into it, because you got to produce that stuff on your own. You cannot rely on China to leasing it to you through different ways, and it's just so lucky for Russia that we have China on our border who is producing all of this stuff. DJI Mavic 3 drones, I think, are also bought by the American army, but they are overpaying so much for those drones. It's insane. Well, like a lot of equipment in US Army, but those DJI, I mean, you're literally buying Chinese drones for a war against China. You're going to be paying a very high price for that. And who knows, what if the Chinese have the remote switch? Because you got... before you're gonna get a Mavic 3 drone to the battlefield, you gotta rewire it. And
actually, the Yanks are buying Canadian drones right now. They're coming from a company down the road from me.
Well, you see, it's modern militaries, modern world. This is how warfare is gonna be conducted in the future, and you gotta rewire those drones every single time. For example, there was a hack called 1001. They were laboratories set up by the volunteers across all of Russia in different cities for different units to get their stuff fixed. Well, you give them the drone, you wait some time, and then your drone can fly anywhere in Ukraine. Because before that, that drone could get, there's like literally devices which can
geofencing,
snipe your drone off. Like they can get that Mavic 3 that you launched back to their base, and you're just going to be donating equipment to the enemy. It's called spoofing. Sometimes those hacks are being well, so to say, deciphered, and then you got to install a new one. So it's a constant fighting, it's a routine that's happening every day, and well, you just gotta adapt because you cannot survive without them. So yeah, DJI drones is a must, and you gotta find a way to produce this kind of thing by yourself, because China ain't gonna be providing those for everyone.
What do you think the end state of the war will be?
No idea. I ask the soldiers all the time. They all give... Usually the answer is, We will fight until we will no longer need to fight. And then we will fight maybe somewhere else in Africa when it's all gonna be over. Some say they will just go back to their families when special military operation is over, because they're there for ideological reasons, not for payment, which is just like any other conflict in the world, really. Sure, ask questions.
I was gonna, yeah, I've got a Mavic 3 drone too, and it's pretty cool. Apart from the geofencing, so I wouldn't mind getting that hack. Would be cool. I was just wondering, the other thing with funerals, does the government cover funerals? You know, do they? Is that something that they don't really talk about, or is it
They do. I have been a witness to a number of, because I live right next to a house of officers, and I see those ceremonies happening, especially in the early days of the special military operation. It was very common. Right now, I don't see that too much, but government does, and I mean, you get all the you get the entire ceremony, and the government covers for all of that, which is, I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. So
yeah, I follow this RT reporter Filatov. I just love his details that he delves into the front line. You probably heard from him, right?
I'll be honest,
No? He's RT correspondent that's working on the front line, but he's actually doing some work for recon and doing the ideas on how to help evacuation, how to help supplies and that. So he's really actively, even though he's civilian, right? He's not military, but he's acting as a military, as a part of a unit. So his solutions are, I would say, really great, because he has like idea about electrical trolley that a few garages are producing that helps evacuate wounded and dead with just one person. It doesn't have to take like 4 people to carry one wounded. It can be one person on the trolley, so it's a less of a target for the drones. Another one is electrical enduro motorcycle that's it's silent, right, and it's much more powerful. And he describes how he avoids FPV drones. Also, he got other tactical ideas that he doesn't share, but he's talking about them from time to time. And the thermal blanket, all of the combination.
What's the name of the guy? What's the name of the guy again?
Andrei Filatov.
I'd say robotics, military robotics have taken a huge leap in special military operation. We see robots that can lay mines. We see kamikaze drones. There is actually a couple of instances of the Soviet MTLB, which is like an APC carrier, just being stuffed with explosives and being remotely sent to the enemy and then being exploded. So there are so many opportunities and stuff to learn from conventional stuff that the government produces itself and the stuff that the soldiers themselves make on the front line. So I'm not surprised that such stuff exists, and it's good that it's being experimented on now while we can gain actual combat experience, because usually when this kind of stuff is being done in the peaceful life, you aren't going to get results and you're not going to get funding to actually make it better. So now is the time for all sorts of innovations.
Okay, guys. Grisha, elaborate on the captured Ucker. What you talk?
I never talked with captured Ukrainians.
Okay, Wayne, I think Wayne have a question. He waited for a long
time. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you better than just now.
I had to switch equipment. Grisha, I've been looking at this since. Okay, I was one of the people that did not think that Putin would invade, for the simple reason that it just didn't make sense. To invade Ukraine, my calculations indicated you'd need 2.5 million troops. You had less than 200,000. When the fighting actually started, everybody looked surprised. And what happens? Nothing. We didn't see a huge push of new troops in. We didn't see a huge push of equipment. As a matter of fact, I look at it from a point of view of someone who's, I'm very interested in military history. Our country has fought wars all over the bloody planet at one point or another. So I look at it and it's like, what the hell are they doing? You go in there with not enough troops. Then when you realize you've got a problem, you don't do anything about it. Where the fuck is the conscription? You should have had 2 million to 3 million men in the theater by now. And when I say you should have had that, I'm going back to historical examples. No, I'm serious. World War II. We managed to put a quarter of our population into uniform. Now, we didn't actually have to implement conscription until 5 years into that. We still managed to get a quarter of our population into uniform. We had just about everything on the entire Canadian continental shelf building stuff for the war effort. From what I can tell, you guys have got fuck all building stuff for the war effort. I really do not understand what you are doing. I mean, what sort of idiot move is this? It's so stupid.
I can answer if you wish to listen. First of all, special military operation, I think everyone here understands that the initial goal was not to have a frontline World War I like warfare. It was to quickly capture key cities, seize Kiev, and the plan was that the Ukrainian government would simply flee. But the backwards intelligence reports, not enough financing of whatever powers inside of Ukraine were supposed to pull out that move, is the result why, we failed in our initial stages. I mean, we pulled out of the north, and then later we had a partial mobilization. You're saying we didn't pour any new troops into Ukraine, which is false. We don't have to, conscripts. To be honest, conscripts do serve on the Russian-Ukrainian border. They serve in the northern states. Well, for example, we are Kharkov, Belgorod, Sumy region. They do serve there, but it's such another complicated issue. The main response was the partial mobilization in Russia, which happened. And when you're talking about such massive numbers, you are seemingly referencing World War II, I guess, or World War I, and you are a fan of military history or expert, but modern warfare is nothing like World War II or World War I. You need to equip soldiers with more than a mere rifle and a helmet. There is much more stuff needed than just personal equipment. You need to supply drones for each unit. You need to cover up the logistics after the chaos of the first failed days. So you're saying it was an idiotic move, but in the end, the Russians.
Where are the new engine plants? Where are the new tank plants? Where are the new armored vehicle plants? Where is all the new production that should be coming online? It should have already been coming online, and it isn't. And
first of all, Mr.
We can check on this by watching satellite.
Wait,
you can tell where armored vehicles are coming from by watching the satellite feeds. For God's sakes.
It's not a war. It's special military operation. It's never meant to be a war. That's the whole point. That's why you're contradicting.
Hey Wayne, can you post a URL of the feed that you're watching? Let's take a look.
What feed?
No, it's ridiculous.
The feed you just mentioned, the satellite feed.
It's ridiculous.
I'm calling your bullshit. Post a link.
Yeah, it's ridiculous you're saying that. The Russians literally have thousands of vehicles in storage.
It's full
And
of
you
all
know for a
sorts of
fact
stuff
that
on
those
how to get
vehicles are being
satellite
sold
images.
out.
Just tell us what the name is, Wayne, right now, live. Just tell us now.
No, if you have the link, it will be good for me to monitor the war because I'm reporting on the war, right?
Just a minute,
need
I'll
to-
put it
Tell
up.
the name. Thank you.
Uh.
Okay, go ahead, Vaughn. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, Bobber are good guys.
You're muted, Vaughn.
Vaughn, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to ask some questions since Grisha's here. Are you a volunteer? Are you a reservist? Are you a conscript? I mean, I don't think you're a conscript because I would assume you can't just hang out on YouTube.
He's too young.
Mister, I'll be honest, I turned 18 roughly 2 months ago. I have been, since summer of 2023, I have been fundraising for units and helping them buy equipment they need. Why do I put a military uniform on myself? I mean, I'm a LARPer. That's what I do. And I think I have some connection to the military since I do help them pretty much every day get whatever they need. I'm in a way just a piggy bank that sends money to people who know where to buy stuff and know how to deliver stuff. The medal I got is for all the efforts I did, which is, I mean, I raised around probably plus 30 to 35K dollars, which I wouldn't say, it doesn't seem like a large sum, but it's very life-changing when you see it so close to you, because I had an officer friend of mine who told me he's alive because of the Mavic 3 drone I supplied that was able to spot the Ukrainians in time so he could retreat in time. Yeah. So
no, I mean, that's cool and all. No, I was just curious because, I've asked other people that, like one person I know is facing conscription soon. And I always, it's hard to get an answer. I don't know, maybe they don't understand, or I don't know, maybe it's secret. But, like if you're a conscript and, they're like, well, you go to the local base, you do your conscription there. And then he said, like, guys will come in from other units and it's kind of like they shop for conscripts to fill their units. And my question is like, even though that's the way it's done, if you have some skill sets before you get there for conscription, can you like put a resume in there and say, hey, I speak 3 languages, or I know how to do this or that. I don't want to be a ratnik. I should be in a staff or an interpreter or something. Or you just left in the wind.
Yes. If you have a vehicle specialization or you want to learn a vehicle specialization, you can ask for that. If you know how to code, if you know foreign languages, you will be assigned to a different unit with proper specialization. Conscripts.
So you can specialize as a conscript if you wanted to.
Yeah, you learn stuff. The whole point is that 1 year you're supposed to learn the military art in whatever way you are most useful in, which is the right way. And conscripts don't exactly serve on a local base. They can be sent to Siberia from Moscow, or they could be sent to Belgrade and be guarding the border from Ukrainians who are at war with you. So, it's...
My other question is on that is just, I mean, would you say that you have to advertise yourself to do that or petition for it? Or do the officers look for people and actually try to scout talent and stuff? You know what I mean?
Always depends on the officer. A lot of things depends on those in command.
I guess what I'm getting at is like, they wouldn't waste manpower. Like, there's not guys getting sent places that are way better at doing something else, like they just get lost in the system, or, they just say, we need like 10,000 infantry. Sorry, I'm glad you speak 3 languages, but that's not what we need right now.
Honestly, I'm not exactly qualified to answer your question. It really differs to whoever is in command. That's it.
Can I just ask?
Well, that's cool. I was just curious because, I'll shut up real quick. I just was curious about if you were allowed to specialize it also. Thanks for answering that.
I was going to say, how did you go in Africa with the things you did down there? How was that?
No, I had never been
Well,
to
you
Africa.
can't talk about it.
I had never been to Africa. Honestly, I'm.
Oh, you didn't go? Or was it just?
Hey guys,
Jesus need to talk. Let Jesus talk.
Can I just say that when you discuss all these minutia, there's interesting topics going around. I wanted to ask Grisha. Hi, Grisha. Good to see you. Good to hear you. Hi, Wade, and all of you guys. I wanted to ask Grisha a question since you've been involved in closer to the situation. I'm wondering why the Ukrainians don't use more unconventional warfare tactics to like counter the greater firepower that comes from the Russian side. And one hypothesis, and I wanted to ask about it, is that to make unconventional warfare, you need a certain level of popular approval, like hard for a guerrilla to function without support of the population. So what do you think about that? Have you heard anything about guerrilla warfare and how it worked for the Ukrainians and why they aren't applying it more? I'm sorry if it was
okay, yeah, it's fine. It's just, I think if there was any guerrilla warfare, we would have heard about it so much, but we don't hear anything about Ukrainians, the civilian population on the, well, I call liberated territories, you can call it whatever you want. We don't hear about them disrupting communication, logistics, whatever. And if there was anything, even anything, for Ukrainian media, you just need a small light of hope, and they will lit up everything with images and videos from that thing. No, there is none of that.
How much of those assassinations, attempted or succeeded assassinations of the Donbass and Novorossiya administrations is internal squabble or partisan, actually, guerrilla?
What are you exactly referencing? I didn't.
Like so many, like mayors of some, southern Ukrainian city that's under Russia control would be assassinated. A bomb will be placed under his car, or you know what I mean. So there's a lot of cases, probably about 50 cases where some administration members being assassinated. That will be guerrilla warfare.
Just a comment. I'm not talking about like deep strikes or DRGs or like sabotage operations. I'm talking about like if you're facing a manpower shortage and a shortage in firepower, then the most convenient thing to do is to preserve your army by dissolving it in the population, especially when you have these sort of narratives of, like brotherly people. So if you want to preserve your firepower and your manpower, you dissolve it in the population and let the enemy come in so that you can attack its rear from wherever. But I don't see that actually happening on the Ukrainian side whatsoever. Russians can't do that. They could, like in Ukrainian populations, but they're establishing definitive front lines, with entrenchments and all that. So it's like a methodic progression. Sorry.
It might be just a case of the population may just not be down for the war, so they can't, because there's too many. I mean, we talked about it before. Think about the human intelligence network that Russia has on the ground in Ukraine. How risky would it be to start a cell and you hope the guys that you picked, one of the guys isn't a Russian loyalist?
Sorry, can I answer that?
That might be part of the problem too. It's just, it's so mixed with people of Russian and Ukrainian that there's too risky to form these groups, because there's literally spies everywhere.
So
shadowy.
Just someone wanted to say something. No, it's okay.
Oh,
wait.
yeah, I just wanted to say that amongst the Ukrainian population, everybody in public speaks to be pro-Ukrainian. That's just like the general way society is going. But like, how do you guys think Russians are able to do deep strikes into the west, south, and anywhere in Ukraine? Really, you can't do that unless you have people on the ground. And sending special forces that deep is not very realistic. You don't have that many special forces. There's a lot of people that are secretly, like, in their kitchens, they'll talk amongst themselves, and that may be pro-Russian. There's also a lot of pro-Ukrainian. There's like a photo. There was recently a tale of a babushka who was taking videos and sending it to Telegram chatbots. There's both Ukrainian, and then there's DPR. Sorry, not DPR. LDNR chatbots where you can send photos and videos of Ukrainian or Russian positions. And like when they found that, when they saw the babushka taking photos and videos, the soldiers came and took her phone away, and they just checked. And they asked her, "Why did you do that?" And she said, "Oh, both my how do you say it? Not children, but their children's children. I forget the word.
Grandchildren.
Grandkids, yes.
Grandchildren.
Got killed. So that's why she was. But that's a case for. There's a lot of like very ideological people that are very pro-Russian as well. They just won't say it. Everybody's going to say "Slava Ukraini," and like.
Well, I mean, that's one thing we've talked about too. Is you've got the Russian network of maybe pensioners and people that are just loyal to Russia. Then you've got people who know somebody who was killed or wounded or captured that are probably pissed off. So I mean, it's like their network probably grows more and more every day as this goes worse and worse.
And I think after that bombing, that probably made it, pretty much fair game for, the Russians to.
Dubious. General population thinks they will win.
Oh well, yeah. Most of the population thinks they will, like, Ukraine will win. There's a very big wave of patriotism in the country. It still is. Many people, at least outwardly in public, they talk patriotically, and there's like there's a lack of news. Most people don't really follow the war. They just listen to what a telegram or the TV tells them, and of course, or if they go on YouTube, they'll mostly get bombarded with Ukrainian media like Union or something like that, and like ICTV, 1+1, like they all have like pieces of sorry, I forget words sometimes. They have like pieces of cut out video clips that they'll watch, and it's always very positive, and it makes sense. That's what you want to do at wartime. You want to increase the morale of your population. So most people think they will win. Yes, that's at least what my belief is. But whether that's the case or not, I don't know. If you follow the war, it's not so one-sided.
Grisha want to say something, right? Grisha.
Yeah, I'd say the main problem with only showing the positives and then having to justify why you lose ground is when people lose trust to you. And this is if you pump too much propaganda, if you lie too much, because when you're showing a victory while there is a big defeat going on, well, people are not gonna trust you anymore. It's simple, and that's why I think so many people from the West have been slowly changing from being pro-Ukraine or being neutral to being pro-Russian because of how much the general media has lied, and they think, well, why am I banned from watching, I don't know, for example, Russia Today in my country, when in reality I'm being lied by my own media.
I think that may be true for the West, but not in Ukraine. I think many people are still like, maybe that will change with the new draconian mobilization laws. Personally, I find them quite draconian, but
let Shadowy go after you.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, I have to go sleep soon. It's kind of late here, so if you guys have quick questions, I can answer them, and I'm kind of tired. So
stay safe, man. That's all I got.
You too. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you, Publius. I will email you the link to join our open mic lounge, speaker lounge. I will also give it to Grisha as well, and Nika as well. Yeah. So
Thanks.
so yeah, it's our safe
Oh,
space.
it's
Have a
only
good
for
night,
people
guys.
that showed up on
Shadow.
open mic. Yeah. Only
Yes, I
selected
wanted
people that showed
to
on
say to
open
Grisha.
mic, nobody else. Yeah.
Sorry.
Let
I
Shadowy
wanted
go,
to
then
say
the new
to
guy.
Grisha that I am a big fan of him. I followed him already when he was playing Earth of Iron 4 with Tommy K, Donkus, and all the others. And it's very sad that the war split even the gaming community in two sides. So, very sad. And second, about the topic of the general population in Ukraine and what they are now thinking, the history shows us that during a war, most of the time the population is going to continue to support more and more the regime who basically manage the propaganda. I'm speaking about most of the population. There is a lot of people in Ukraine, so of course there is a Russian service are going to find special individuals who basically hate the current regime in Kiev, and who are going to be ready to fight against him, even by giving intelligence or directly planting bomb on bridge or on I don't know what. That's going to be a very small minority, I think, because the propaganda is always a very effective tool, and they are going to brainwash everybody basically.
Propaganda has always two sides. You cannot overuse it, otherwise it will lose its effect. And I think that's what's happening in Ukraine right now. Too much has been pumped on this victory that's gonna happen tomorrow, because tomorrow we're gonna get the Abrams tanks. No,
Crimea
now
Beach
it will.
Party.
Yeah,
Crimea Beach
now it
Party.
will. Now it will happen next month, because ATACMS missiles are gonna be given to us. Next month comes, the missiles come in, victory doesn't come in, another F-16 is being invented. F-16, they're still being trained. Oh, the France will give us jet fighters. After this, we will surely win. But you know, people are very gullible by the media, and probably much more than in, for example, World War II. I'd say, just because of how much our lives revolve around social media, how much it's integrated into our day-to-day life. But people aren't that dumb. They, at some point, they realize something fishy is going on.
I think everyone wants to be on a winning side, especially if it's your own side, right? So it's that bias that moves, that actually it's easily right moved. So that's why most of the time, if the positive news are coming, you want to be on winning side. You want to be rooting for the winning side, right? Not always for the underdog. Some people determined to root for an underdog. That's why this works really for a long time. That this propaganda works for a long time, presenting the victory and so on. Yeah, the danger from showing those like forced conscriptions, and it starts happening in big cities. That's why they don't do it. That's why they don't do it. They don't want to show that to everyone to see with their own eyes. That's why it's happening
Nika.
only in rural areas. Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Nika.
I have two things to say about White. The fact that the numbers, just I will have a comment about the numbers, the casualty. I don't see it as a measurement of how much you've killed or you damaged, or it's the intensity of the fights. Sometimes it will give you an indication of the intensity of the fights. On some regions, sometimes even if it's propaganda, we know it's propaganda 100%. Even if it's that, we know that, for example, that day it was like a low intensity area, but when they increase the numbers, even if it's false, it's that the intensity has increased. Maybe there's something important there. Second thing about the propaganda, I see that a lot of Western countries are the propaganda is very effective, but in the other regions, we know that our government are always lying on us. So we seek always to see another ways to get information, or we don't believe them automatically. So this is actually a Western problem more than any other area of the world.
I personally like to watch RT to understand United States, because RT will report on things that United States do not want, the US media don't want to talk about. And that's also how I know that Trump will win the first election, because the RT went in, they exposed the entire, all the middle states, how everything is falling apart and everything. But you cannot depend on RT to talk about Russian stuff. Everything will be positive. That is very clear. But RT also helps to show me a bit of the reality in Donbass during the Civil War times. But it was very hard to imagine, because I was totally unaware of how the front line looks, what is actually happening. So it's very confusing, how the civilians are living so near to the front line, and then their house have a hole here, there's a hole there. It's very confusing. But I like to watch RT for Syria, to understand the situation in Syria, because no US media will talk about Syria at all. Like there is nothing at all. So, but then but the unfortunate thing is that I cannot watch US media to understand Russia, because everything is fake. So that's quite bad as well. I think it's Vaughn.
Yeah, hey Grisha, I want to ask you. I mean, I know you talked about the POW thing earlier, but what do you hear from people, or what do you hear, in regards to the Ukrainians? Are there a lot of units surrendering? And my second part of that would be, do you get a feeling for what the Russian soldiers, or you guys feel? How do you feel about the mercenaries?
It's actually pretty interesting, but I'm friends with a guy who spoke plenty of foreign languages, like French, Spanish, German, and he was responsible for interrogation of people who came from a different country. It was mostly Poles. So lots of Poles, and the French guys, and especially that's a whole different story. There are people from South American.
Do you feel like they want to capture the mercenaries because they feel like it's a valuable trophy, or do you feel like they're more inclined just to shoot them because they're foreign mercenaries? I mean, I'm not saying you have to say specific. I'm just saying their attitude-wise. I mean, do they look at them as something valuable to capture, or do they look at them as a problem?
A problem. And the most efficient way of dealing with that problem is usually to not have it.
Yeah.
And that's, if you really want to get into that topic.
No, I don't, dude. I just was curious about, if they thought, they wanted to capture him, it's worth it.
Milchakov, who is commander of the Rusich unit, he's all about handling of POWs, and the stuff they do is you can't imagine.
Russians don't like mercenaries.
Well, and then, like I said, in my other part,
Crimea Beach Party
you hear a lot about
2026, 2027.
Nunia, wanna go?
Yeah, sure. Question for both of you guys. Grisha, sorry if I mispronounced that, Nika. First question's for you, Grisha. Now that kind of the Russians have secured up the outlying areas of Donbass, how are the people? Are they feeling more secure in Donetsk City, for example? And then my question for Nika. Nika, did I hear right that you're from Tunisia? We don't hear a whole lot about Tunisia, so I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit about how the French influence is kind of waning or not waning. I know that's a side quest to the Russian thing, but I was just curious since we got a Canadian guys here. So those are the questions I was going to ask.
Yeah, Grisha first.
The more land close to Donbass you capture, to Donetsk, Lugansk, the more secure people will feel. But I mean, there is ATACMS missiles, there's HIMARS, and they will reach. They have no problem. I think just today there was a strike in Lugansk from ATACMS missiles. So this problem is not gonna go away. It's gonna get easier because, for example, there are those mines, Lipestok, stuff like that might disappear, and it will surely help reduce the amount of civilians that die to this stuff. But it's something Donetsk people really got used to living, which is horrible. But until the special military operation is over, or at least the combat phase, that thing is not going to go away.
Yeah. How about since there's so many numbers? Yeah, since there's so many Polish people in military in Ukraine, and if I remember Russian reports about more than 3,000 Polish. I mean, would you consider? And I'm guessing that there's more than that, but would you imagine that it's actually organized? The whole units were being sent, or is just voluntary? Like, would you say that Poland already sent their military into Ukraine a long time ago?
Most definitely, there are active duty members. Sure, there are volunteers, but they just there's actually Russian volunteers who came to Donbass in 2014 were also parts of the military. They just had they were just given a little break to go somewhere else, but everyone knew where they were going. So it's the same as Poland, and the government will always deny this stuff, so don't expect any truth from them. But this amount of people on their own, no way.
Very interesting.
Can I ask my question?
Drew, or I don't know.
Can I ask
Okay, bro. Like Drew, go first, Drew.
So sorry. Question for Grisha again. Do the regular Russian people think of Singaporeans at all, or do they hate us for sanctioning you guys?
If I'm exactly honest to you, if you'll probably ask a regular Russian about Singapore, they'll probably tell you it's China.
Okay, that's good. Do they like China nowadays?
China is, I'd say China is China minds its own business, and they are always, if they're doing something, they're doing it because it's benefits them. At some point, it might stop benefiting them, they'll stop doing it. So I think there is obviously a link between Russian and Chinese people due to, I'd say, the horrors both our nations faced in World War II are quite similar, and that's a very uniting factor of why we are close. I'd say a lot of stuff from, for example, the whole special military operation thing comes from World War II, because Ukrainians are LARPing as the Nazis, Russians are LARPing as the Soviets. Literally, you see the victory banners, and you see Ukrainians using Waffen-SS symbols, death heads. Though, I'm going to be extremely honest to you, the Totenkopf, the dead head from the Waffen-SS unit, it is used by Russians too. Not in the same numbers, but it is used. Completely honest, there are people tattooed with swastikas that, it is. We don't have it on government endorsed level like it is in Ukraine, and that's probably the main difference. And that's why Azov Brigade had to be completely rebranded because of how much exposure the unit got everywhere due to its insignia, and now it's called Третья окремно-штурмовая бригада, and not like Azov like it's used to be, and they had to change their logo from that funny black sun symbol to something more Normal looking.
More German
I
friendly.
just had a quick question. You know, because you help raise money to buy supplies and stuff. Do you feel like the average Russian soldier was well equipped, and they're just buying extra stuff because they figured out they need new gear, different gear, or something that's not issued, or they just want some better stuff? Because like when I was in the Army, you know, I had my issued gear, but I still went out and bought extra boots and stuff, you know, to make my job easier and my life easier. So do you think they're equipped decently and they're just, you know, they got money, so they're buying extra stuff they want or toys they want or gear? Or do you feel like they were poorly equipped and you had to raise money to help them? Like they really needed the gear?
First of all, they really needed the gear on many occasions, especially in the start. But you got to understand that as a soldier, you probably understand the struggle of a soldier, but sure, you get your 200k rubles a month, but your whole life depends on how well equipped you are. So you will probably spend most of that on whatever helps get yourself home to safety.
Well, you know that Real Reporter guy did that story about the lawyer that went to the front and came back. And when he came back, you know, he had a lot of money and, you know, he was issued equipment, but he went out and bought like a real high-end body armor suit and shit because he said that would help keep him alive and protect him better. But a lot of people say here in the West, they're like, oh, look, the Russians can't even equip their soldiers and, you know, they got to go out and buy their own gear. And it's like, you know, we did the same thing. I mean, look at when we went into Iraq the second time. They had the big scandal about all the guys buying their own body armor because the Army wasn't issuing body armor, like the dragon's skin and all that kind of shit. So to me, I was just curious because it seems like they're probably equipped decently, but they obviously buy stuff for themselves and fix things up. And like you said, they do things to make their life easier and make sure they survive. And once you go there to the front, you know what you need and you know what works. So why wouldn't you come back and get it? Like, I can understand the big fundraisers to get drones and shit because that was a big deal. But I just never really bought into the whole thing. Like, oh, they're so like we sent them to Kiev and they need boots. I mean, that's kind of how they played it over here. Like, you guys didn't have boots. You know, they found some like wool pants from World War II that they gave you and shit. You know,
I'd honestly say that obviously you can use a Mosin Nagant rifle. And you could have seen it being used by the DPR militias.
I saw DPR guys with Mosins. It was like a teenage boy wearing a green coverall standing at a checkpoint with a Mosin. And they made fun of that. Look at the Russians can't even equip their soldiers. And it's like, he's like some teenage boy guarding a village road. He ain't in a fucking army.
I'd say, as I repeat myself, no army is 100% prepared for a war. And if you have an opportunity to get more stuff, you will use it. I think if soldiers in World War II had an opportunity to buy more stuff to keep them alive, they would 100% use it. But like there was no such thing as a shop to get better gear than a pepper shot that you were issued along with your standard camo. It's just modern war, modern problems, modern solutions. That's capitalism, by the way. It would be interesting to see how it would be played out in China, but I mean, China
it's very capitalistic now, so
and it's in the
no
same
problem.
capitalist feed. But at least China is the one that sells to everyone the stuff that soldiers.
You'll be
China's
cheaper.
selling drones both to Ukraine and to Russia. And then
Yeah, they're making tons of money both ways. So about gears, no, because even when I was in the military, we are not even at war, no, it's just basic training. We have to do reconnaissance, we have to do topography, we have to look at the map and travel. And we have this giant World War II style, those compass. It's so inconvenient. So I myself bought those small ones, like those for kids. I just clip it here. Then every time I just look at the compass, you will end up buying stuff that it makes your life easier. I mean, even that's peacetime for me. So don't talk about the giant compass. It's so stupid to use. Half cast, I think.
Hey, can I ask something following up that question?
Oh yeah, Jesus.
Because I remember, Lisa, that you mentioned in another, I think it was with History Legend or something, about you had a shortage of drones on the front compared to the Ukrainians, you know? And yeah, like I imagine that in a war, like you're in a survival mode, but hardcore because they're actively trying to destroy you, and you need a lot of stuff and firepower and protection. So like for a soldier, I guess it's never enough. You always need more. It's always better with more. If you have more ammo, if you have a better gun, if you have more body armor, you can always use more. I would put body armor on my backpack and use it as a shield, you know, like apart from the body armor you're using. So like if you have more pads of armor, you can do more shit with that and whatever. But how's the situation with the drones?
You see, I'd say the war got transformed from the early days of special military operation to an industrial war where, in a way, it's like a war of Excel sheets where you see numbers of equipment, how much it costs. A shell can cost, I don't know, a Western shell delivered to Ukraine can cost like $5,000. You can get the same for $500 in Russia. And that's a very, very big difference. And this war became an industrial war. So obviously, I think if people had an opportunity to just buy unlimited supply of drones, they would just bomb everything forward and then walk in when everything is dead. That would be the perfect solution, but for that you need a ton of money. And whatever you have, you use.
Not only
that's.
Hey, I got one question. You know, one thing I've noticed is like all the badass tricked out AKs with the ZGO rails and the optics and stuff. Are a lot of the soldiers buying that stuff and putting it on their rifles? Are some of that stuff issued? Because I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, I've seen rifles over there that they would be worth like $5,000 to $6,000, $7,000 over here if they were available for sale.
Trophies.
And I've seen like Leopold optics on it, aim point minis, like Western stuff. So it's like,
you will get surprised how much. Regarding Western sanctions, it's all just a bluff, really, because you can get Starlinks as a Russian soldier, and I get like the most.
Well, hell, dude, I saw on Temu you could buy a Garan drone for like $11,000 from Temu.
Maybe, but
or whatever the Chinese version is, it's the same damn thing though. But it was the exact same thing. It's like, but yeah, I was just curious because I mean, those guys have a lot of nice ass setups. You know, I mean, oh my god, you know, that's got to be like like in American money, that's $2,000 or $3,000 of accessories on those rifles.
Everyone wants
to get all the free pickups, you know, all the free trophies.
Everyone wants to make money. They will sell it to anyone, whoever gives the most. This is how capitalism works.
Hey, what about guys who pick up trophies? Do they keep the trophies? Do they sell them for money?
Bro, if you give me 2 minutes, I can show you my trophies. I just gotta put my pants on.
Okay. Oh man.
On the meanwhile, I just want to do one comment. I don't think the sanctions are a bluff. I don't think they want. They just fail miserably. Yeah, exactly. So because they didn't. Yeah, if they wanted to hurt, they didn't want to. I don't think they can beat Russia militarily. So they wanted to cripple them like North Korea or Iran or stuff, but it failed miserably because they don't ask professionally, you know.
No. I think they asked professionally, but the economists and the mathematicians that they found failed to do the calculation correctly. Because like I always say in my videos, your analysis is very dependent on your quality of data. If your data is wrong, your sources are wrong, you're going to have bad analysis. It doesn't matter how good
you could add ideology to that.
But it
the
was
quality
also
of the analysis depends on your own ideology.
Yeah, that's to raise the prices, to make more money, to make more profit.
Oh, see the drone?
They've been doing it since 2018.
So this is the Ukrainian drone.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Oh,
a
hell
Ukrainian
yeah.
Oh, modified.
fried drone, Mavic Free.
I see how can I make him bigger? How can I make him bigger?
This one
Pull
was
back
raised.
from camera. We don't see it.
I mean, is this fine? This one was literally fundraised
Whoops.
by.
Wrong phone.
This one was
Solo layout.
fundraised. This
Thank
drone
you,
was
Wyatt.
fundraised by Ukrainians, and you can see their mark. So literally, like, they're funded by civilians, just like I fund drones for the Russian side. Same Ukrainian does. So I have a whole chest of those things.
Sorry.
But
No, I was
also,
just curious. Like, can they sell their trophies and shit?
I think we should consider that Ukraine is lacking a lot of artillery shells, right, for a long time. So they need to replace it with drones. Like it's like drones, FPV drones are like short-range artillery, more like mortars.
It's scary too because they can
You would want to replace it with something. So it's kind of organized with state, right?
But the thing is not. I don't think it's a money issue because a FPV drone is probably just as expensive as just a shell. But the thing is to use a shell to hit. You want to kill someone with the shell. You need to fire a lot of shells.
Yes.
My FPV drones is always going to be very accurate. I think it's a matter of production problem. You know,
50%.
if it's money problem, I don't think it's a problem. I think FPV drones is more cost effective to
Yeah,
take out
it's
soldiers.
It's a short range compared to the artillery, and it's we see the successful videos, but I think it's about 1/3 to mostly 1/2 of the success of the FPV drones, right?
True. We saw a lot of the Ukrainian failure ones, right? You know, when the Ukrainian FPV drone going to hit the Russian soldier press dodge. He press dodge. Then he
But if you have a good jamming system, you cannot jam a shell. You can jam an FPV drone.
But we look at the terrain, right? It looks like the moon. So it's clear that a lot of the shells just don't hit the targets.
If you
it's
have
just
jamming
everywhere.
system, you also need to know that the drone is coming to you. If you don't know, because you cannot keep the jamming system turned on 24/7, it overheats, it burns. So you have to turn it on only when you need it. But how to know when the small drone is approaching to you? You don't hear it. It's most of the time you will see it at maybe 50 meters away. That's the best.
So we need a development of a new form of radars, not just to detect birds.
Well, yeah,
Detect birds and
All you need is a pump shotgun.
Get duck hunters out there. I'll take them out the sky.
Anyway, thank you, Grisha, for showing off your loots.
Yeah. Thank you guys for a warm welcome. It's 4 a.m. I gotta go to sleep. I will definitely join soon. Again, thank you very much, guys.
Hey man, make sure you drop in the voice chat or something.
Join voice chat, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well,
have a good night.
Good night, Grisha. Thank you so much.
Where can I give you money?
Oh, he dropped. I think you can ask him on for those that want to follow him. I gotta like show you this. He's on Twitter. So you can find him on Twitter as a ZShakerCentral, and his website is also called ZShakerCentral. So I think I just thought that his most famous meme video is the most funny one. The Z. He's like so excited. Z. How can someone play HO? How can anyone play Hoi 4 until so excited? No, I don't understand. Shadow V.